By the time the Buckeyes get off the practice field on this Woody Wednesday, they will be 2 full weeks into training camp. They've got a scrimmage in the books as well and another one on deck. So, yeah, the dog days of August are here, and it's time for a midweek Boren Blitz because of that. Welcome to the Beat presented by the Waterworks. He is former Ohio State captain Zach Boren. I am Austin Ward. Zach, you know this is that time. You just hate seeing that same color across from you. These guys are already starting to feel that, you can tell.
No doubt. Also, we're 2.5 weeks away from the Buckeyes actually strapping it up for real, which is insane. And to your point, we're a couple weeks through camp. You had a big scrimmage, man. You've been going toe-to-toe with these guys. To your point, it's dog days. It's humid out. You know, you look across and guys' snots coming out of their nose and everything else because they're doing 25 reps of inside drill. Awesome, man. This is when you build character, buddy. This is when you get ready for the season. But in saying that, I know here's the thing. Buckeyes have had a super successful start to camp so far. It's been a successful camp. They've seen a lot of guys do a lot of great things. And after this weekend scrimmage that they have, Austin, you kind of start buttoning it up for the season. It's kind of, hey, we're going to start game planning. We're going to start putting guys to the side for scout team, really start working on Ball State and Texas. And at that point, man, season's here.
So put me in the cleats of a player after scrimmage number 1, Zach. You know, we hear Ryan Day say, well, the coaching staff's got to see the film. We're going to make corrections. And then that becomes, 1 week to attack those things for scrimmage number 2. And as you said, then you really want to be game planning. You want to have the competition battles as over as you possibly can. So you go compete, you go back into the locker room after that, you watch the film. Then what? Like, what is a player's mentality based? Because not everything is going to look perfect in scrimmage number 1, and it probably won't even look close. How do players react to that feedback? And then what do you do in that ensuing week?
I mean, really, if you are contending for a starting position or significant playing time, like your battle's over a 2-week window, Austin. The first week of camp, you're kind of getting acclimated. You're not fully in pads. Everyone's out there kind of just getting their legs underneath them. And then, which would have been last week, the first week of full pads going into that first scrimmage, it's like, hey, we're getting going. We're competing. That first scrimmage is crucial because to your point, that's your first time of game-like reps, getting it on film, right? That's when the coaches are like, hey, coaches are off the field. We're running this like a game. You're going out there competing 1s-on-1s, 2s-on-2s, like you are really going at it. So once you get that film, Austin, you obviously break it down on Sunday. You go over with your coach. Everyone gets graded out. Hey, pluses, minuses, what do I really need to work on? Then this week is crucial, right? Like this is the week where you have to prove to your position coach the things that you said I failed to do properly in scrimmage 1, like I am working on them this week. And then scrimmage 2 is the biggest thing, Austin. Like, yeah. Let's be honest. This week going into Saturday is when starting jobs and significant playing time is going to be determined. Because as I said, after this scrimmage on Saturday, it's kind of like, let's get ready for Ball State. At that point, you're not really competing on, who's going to run out on the field when, you need a third or fourth wide receiver, who's going to run out in the nickel package and who's going to run out in base. Like that stuff is going to be finalized after the scrimmage on Saturday. So as a player, you are grinding this week to show those coaches what you learned from tape. Because here's the other thing, Austin, like coaches, what being developed isn't just being developed on the field and understanding like, okay, I'm getting better as a player. Being developed also means that, hey, listen, I can look at film, learn from it, and literally go out and be able to improve on the field the next week just from watching myself on film. And coaches want that, Austin, because Ryan talks about this. We talk about it. You should be getting better as a team, as a player, every single week during the season. That's when you really start to see guys come on. And so coaches want players that are going to continuously get better. You watch the film from a game on a Saturday, you learn from it, you work on it during the week, and then that following Saturday, it's a hell of a lot better than what you put on tape the week before, right? And so this is that time for those players to show that week progression of saying, hey, listen, I know I did not do this well. Hey, I know, I didn't carry the number 3 receiver the way I should have on this third down play, whatever. I really have to show what I can do this next week, and coaches want to see that.
Yeah, and that's the biggest part. I think every coach says this, but Ryan Day repeats it all the time, that you learn through failure. You need those scars. You have to be able to understand what went wrong and turn it into a right the next week. So, we're roughly at that halfway point now, 2 full weeks into camp. Zach, I want to know what you think is the most encouraging thing you've heard about this team. We'll get to the lingering concerns that may exist for the Buckeyes, but what's one thing that's particularly got you excited right now?
This is going to be a typical response that you've gotten from me over the years, Austin. I will say this, and it's not so much a hot take, as I love to give hot takes.
Absolutely.
I will say this: this defense is legit. From things I have heard from inside the program, obviously with losing 3 top 12 draft picks or top 11 draft picks on the defense side of the football last year, losing another second round pick in IGB, this defense is the real deal. Now I don't want to put them on the pedestal and say they're going to be better than last year's defense, but I think a lot of people were expecting a drop off from that standpoint. This defense is nasty, man. They've been getting after the offense, whether it be stopping the run, whether it be in the pass game. And as we know, this Ohio State offense is loaded across the board, especially throwing the football. And we could go on and talk about individual players, Austin, and everything else. But I don't think people realize how good this defense is really going to be, especially in the second year of Matt Patricia. And there being a lot of guys who have now seen the system is able to add more things on to what they were even able to do last year. And also, we were talking last year, like ESPN, all these people were talking like college defenses don't do this, right? For what Matt Patricia was rolling out, like they're like, this is unheard of in college football, right? Like, so now you're able to take that and layer in even more stuff. Like, man, they could be dangerous, dude.
I do think that part is interesting because for all the players that you mentioned that Ohio State and Matt Patricia are trying to replace, and that's not going to be easy. Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese, Caleb Downs, Caden McDonald, Dave Snigbanosa, and Lorenzo Styles. That's significant. But I thought last week, didn't really get a chance to dive into this all that deeply with Matt Patricia, but the number of players that are coming back all have a year in Matt Patricia's system. So Peyton Pierce, Jalen McClain, Kenyatta Jackson, Edric Houston, guys even that were on the bench. Ryan Day brought up, TJ Alford and Riley Pettijohn having a really good second week of camp to complement what you have with Christian Allegro and Peyton Pierce. Even the transfers that you bring in, someone like Allegro, James Smith, they were brought in specifically by Matt Patricia to fit his scheme. So that's all different than a year ago where Patricia parachutes in. He doesn't have a chance to really add anything into the roster. Now, I'm not minimizing by any stretch of the imagination. If you have Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs to start with, you're going to be able to teach them any kind of defense you want. The football IQ is off the charts for those guys. But now you have a built-in level of knowledge with players that are going from year 1 to year 2 with Matt Patricia. He knows what they do well. He doesn't have to learn it, figure that out on the fly. And the ones that you've supplemented with, an Allegro, a James Smith, a John Walker, an Earl Little Jr., Terry Moore, whoever else, they were all evaluated by Matt Patricia or James Laurinaitis or Tim Walton or Matt Guerrero or Larry Johnson to go fit into what Ohio State wants this defense to look like in year 2. So I think, and I know it sounds crazy because we've said this all offseason about the depth potentially being better. I wonder if there's more in Matt Patricia's encyclopedia available to him now than he could have got to a year ago, just because even with the players he lost, he retained a lot.
Yes. The answer to your question is yes. Matt Patricia has more up his sleeve than what he was able to roll out last year. And Austin, you hit on something, and I want people to think about it this way. Yes, the players last year were learning Matt Patricia's system on the fly. And yes, a lot of the guys this year that are going to be big-time contributors that you talked about, may not have been starters last year, but they were still learning the system. They still had to know it. And so another year they get more comfortable. But here's another thing, Austin. Last year was Matt Patricia's first year in college football in a long time, right? So here's the other thing that people don't realize. Matt Patricia was learning last year. It wasn't just the players learning a system. Matt Patricia was learning college football and understanding what I need to do to be successful. And so to your point, when he goes out and purposely goes after Christian Alliegro, James Smith, John Walker, or Earl Little Jr., like the list goes on and on. Like he specifically targeted those guys because he learned so much from last year's season that he knows what he wants to do with this defense by taking it to the next level. And he got the pieces that he wanted in order to do that.
Yeah. It's pretty exciting. And also the fact that Ohio State on Saturday, it didn't seem like Ryan Day was all that upset about what the offense did, especially after it started raining. We all know that Jeremiah Smith is very good, but Bo Jackson starting is just very, very good. Bo Jackson started getting some momentum last week as well, based on what you and I talked about in the first Boren Blitz of camp, and Isaiah West and Jacoby Jackson, and wondering how Bo fit into that. That feels pretty significant as well. So did feel like a lot of positive things going on for Ohio State. But is there anything now with 2.5 weeks to go that is still, I don't know, a concern, a worry, an uncertainty for you?
Well, it's not a concern. I'm actually gonna answer that question in two ways. One is I think there's a huge positive that people started talking about, and we talked a little bit about it on the Blitz last week, was the emergence of some wide receivers in this room, right? And we all know Jeremiah Smith is the best player in all of college football, but we knew they needed some guys to supplement him. And the big name that came out of Saturday with Chris Henry Jr. and what he's able to do only adds value to this offense, and it's only going to make life on Jeremiah Smith easier, right? Like, we talked about the transfers in the first Blitz and what they're able to bring to this offense. Well, now you've got a guy like Chris Henry Jr., who's a matchup nightmare at 6'5", 6'6", whatever he is, big dude. You can put him on the outside, and now you can move Jeremiah around the offense and create mismatches that he can take advantage of, right? Now maybe you can put Jeremiah Smith inside and let him work on a nickel or let him work on a linebacker and do those things, especially when you got a big body outside. So I'm going to touch on the emergence of the wide receivers outside of Jeremiah Smith because I think that's crucial. One question mark, and it's not a bad one, Austin, but I think last year specifically, and even going into this season, there was so much talk about the emergence of the tight end position, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously last year we saw Ohio State do tons of 2-3 tight end sets. There was tons of talk about, the emergence of Nate Roberts this year and everything. The one thing that I'm not hesitant about it, but maybe my question mark, and obviously where the offensive line fits and who rolls out, that's a question. But you just haven't heard much about the tight ends, right? And I don't think – I'm not sounding the alarm like that's a bad thing. You just said, is there anything that through 2 weeks are you a little caught off guard on? With how much talk there was about the tight end position, how little talk there's been about that position through 2 weeks, just makes me question, is everyone else coming on so hard that they don't even need to talk about the tight ends? Or is no one emerging as that top tight end guy? Or is just everyone doing what they're supposed to do? And, tight end's kind of that unforgotten position, right? Let's be honest. You go out there, you put your hand in the dirt. You're supposed to blow up the defensive end on power or on run. You're supposed to pass block in certain situations, or you go out for non-sexy pass routes, right? And so it's is it just the forgotten group, or is there some worry about it? Who knows, Austin?
Yeah, no, I think it. Right now, and obviously subject to change with another scrimmage, looming and a couple weeks to build. I don't think that Ohio State views the room as lacking the talent to do all the things that Keenan Bailey as the position coach and Arthur Smith as the offensive coordinator wanted to do. I think, they talk about Nate Roberts as an All-American in waiting. They talk about Bennett Christian as one of the all glue guys for this team and one of the best blockers and an underrated athlete. There's a lot of excitement about what Mason Williams can do as that Ohio U pipeline at tight end continues. Hunter Welsing has Big Ten experience and has performed in games against the rival. All these things, I thought Max LeBlanc in the first 3 days of practice was one of the standout tight ends, and I didn't expect any scenario where that was going to occur for him at Ohio State. So good for him for sticking with that. But all those things can be true. And at the same time, you have Ryan Day coming into not one, but two press conferences. And as the conversation has shifted away from running back, and again, effusive in the praise of Bo Jackson on Saturday, it's now tight end. The first day was running backs, backup quarterback, and tight end were the positions that he was watching. Backup quarterback, I don't know that that competition is going to be resolved anytime soon, and it's a lot more legitimate than we thought. But running back, you take that to the side. Tight end still came up on Saturday from Ryan Day. So I don't think that you're alone in that, Zach. I do think that Ryan Day is wanting to see more, because the other part of that is they felt really good about what they built for that unit, and they know that Arthur Smith wants to use it, whether that's 12 personnel, whether that's, again, more 13 or 14 in short yardage. I hope we don't have to see nearly as much of it as we did a year ago, but theoretically they were going to be better suited to operate it this year, or at least that was the intention. So no, you're not on an island there, and I think Ryan Day is sounding some of those same, I don't know, not alarms, but he's at least ringing a bell of attention towards it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, at this point, you want some positive momentum at every position, especially ones that and again, it's not question marks, it's just uncertainty, right? Like, who was really going to step up? And Austin, I think we talked about that on the Blitz like a week or two going into training camp. Like, who's it going to be? We don't think there's an issue with talent. It's just who's going to be the guy. And without Ryan coming out and really being forthcoming of, hey, this guy is kind of separating himself, you kind of wonder, like, in a crowded room, someone has to separate themselves at some point. Otherwise, you have an issue, right? Like, what's the saying? If you have a whole bunch of guys, you don't have any, but you need one guy, right? So, man, I don't know, and I'm not going to sit here. I don't want people to question, like, oh man, there's been a huge drop off. Like, Keenan Bailey isn't putting in the coaching effort like he did last year, or those guys aren't as skilled as those guys last year. I don't think that's it at all. I think they're just waiting for someone to kind of elevate themselves from the rest of the group.
Well, and they, we talk about what they lost on defense. They lost two, top 3 round draft picks in Max Clare and Will Kazmarek. That's a lot of experience. That's a lot of NFL ability. And Ryan Day and Keenan Bailey will talk about this all the time. And it, Zach, that what they ask the tight ends to do, to be able to pass protect and block like a tackle, to be able to run routes like a wide receiver, to pick up blitzes like a running back. We hear that all the time. It is a developmental position. And Nate Roberts, when he was getting reps a year ago, a large chunk of them were at fullback. Bennett Christian has never been a full-time frontline tight end for this team, although he's shown flashes of being able to do that. Mason Williams and Hunter Welsing are coming in from other programs, and Max LeBlanc has, no real experience of significance at Ohio State. So, like, that is an unproven group. Again, that's, as you said, not a concern about the talent level or athleticism or size or strength. I think you look at that room, and we talked all offseason, that is a deep group. You should be able to find an answer out of that, but I don't know that I even feel all that surprised that it hasn't happened at this point, because of all of the work that goes into playing that position. To be an all-around tight end is incredibly difficult. And so, if you're trying to find your way and you're making mistakes in the first scrimmage, to take it back to your initial point about this week in particular, who's going to make those corrections and who's going to have a standout scrimmage in the second one, because there's a job that's available for them if they do.
For sure. And you said something that I want to bring light to is, I think going into this training camp, everyone was eyeing Nate Roberts as being the guy. And coaches have been outspoken about how he is an All-American caliber player. Well, Austin, in year one in the program, almost all of his reps were lining up in the backfield in a 3-point stance playing fullback. And trust me, I know from experience, playing fullback is way different than playing tight end. So with all of his work last year was lining up at fullback and doing those things, Austin, I hate to break it to you, like there's not a ton of growth in that from his standpoint. So now when he's lining up at tight end full time this year, it's kind of like he's learning the position all over again, just because his job last year was totally everything but being a tight end, Right. And so, man, like it's just I say a young group, but it's just from an experience playing at Ohio State, it's a young group.
Yeah. Well, big week for them. It's already halfway over at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, which means we're halfway to the next Boren Blitz. We'll be back on a normal Monday, I think. At least that's the plan.
Yes, we will.
All right, good. All right, we've worked that out right now.
We should have some good feedback on the scrimmage. We're gonna make the announcement on the show of who's starting at every position.
Yes,
it's gonna be great.
Good. I can't wait to find out myself because
I
think we can get most of them right. But now you said all of them, so that's the challenge. That will be back.
Starting with kicker.
Yes. Didn't know that there was going to be a battle there, but it turns out that there might actually be. So, who knew? Training camp is always interesting and plenty to break down. I love getting that information and insight from Zach Boren, who has actually lived it. Thanks for joining us for a special Wednesday edition on the Beat, presented by the Waterworks of the Boren Blitz. He is Zach Boren. I'm Austin Ward. We'll talk to you later for some Snappy Jays at the Woody.